Hey, what's up, y'all? This is former NASCAR driver Bill Lester.
I'm NASCAR driver Natalie Decker.
NASCAR's chief hype officer Mamba Smith.
And you're listening to Victory Lane.
Victory Lane.
Victory Lane Vibes. Let's go.
376, Antron Brown is the top fuel champion.
About Rajat Fruit, he's never led the field to green on a start or a restart, Michael. What a moment for him right now. His 30th truck start came up from the ARCA Menard series. Just praying for it. There it is. Rajat Caruth wins it at Las Vegas. First career win, gets it done.
You stayed in the game, and it was just one step, one punch, one round at a time. And my guys had me a great stop, and we just executed. So there's more to come for sure.
His final time through 3 and 4. He's gonna do it. Bubba Wallace wins at Kansas.
Ready. What they gonna say now, baby? Let's go!
Championship record is equals. Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.
Get in there, Lewis. What a way to do it, mate. What a way to win your 7th world title.
Welcome to another episode of Victory Lane Vibes. We are your hostesses with the mostesses. It's Jared, it's Art, it's Carl. We told you we'd be back if that news dropped. Man, the news dropped.
It did.
Dropped it. Ooh. So, in case you didn't hear, SHR is closing their doors for real. The team was notified. The employees were notified on May 28th. Say we are ceasing operations at the end of the season. Go ahead, update your LinkedIn and your resumes, get y'all job applications out because you won't be here next year. It's kind of crazy. Like, and I guess I'll soliloquy and then I'll let these two chime in. But like on the one hand, it's like, wow, what happened to y'all being real racers? You couldn't get real sponsorship? That's crazy. They did the whole rollout over the fall. They signed Noah. They signed Josh. They changed the logos. They changed the wraps on the trucks. They took all them damn pictures like a J.C. Penney Center catalog just to come out 6 months later and say, sorry, y'all, we cooked. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most like awe-inspiring thing to me. Like you spent all that money on the rebrand and nobody bought into it. Like, no, like, we're good. We'll stay away. But they've won 3 championships over their tenure here. Teams come and go. It's just odd that, Kevin Harvick put the team on his back. I think he tripled the win count for everybody else that drove an SHR vehicle during his tenure there. Yeah. He got a championship, and they're shutting up shop at the end of the year. So there's 4 charters available. The hotline about the bling. Now, I will say that apparently I was educated. Nothing can be done until the rest of the teams approves this new deal that's coming out seemingly any day from NASCAR. You got to have a charter deal in place in order to sell charters. So hopefully that bodes well enough for teams to make the investment of expansion. I've heard some grumblings and rumblings. Front row needs a charter for Cup. Front row needs a new shop to house the 3 Cup teams and the truck team they have. So they would probably be looking to move into SHR. And then, we spoke about it. Art and I did the last chart episode we did. Trackhouse / Spire / 2311. If it's time to put Corey in the car full time, what's going to be? I mentioned then that Corey being in the car in Nashville is a tryout. And now with today's news, I definitely think that's what it's going to be. It's tryout season to see who's going to drive the yet to be numbered 3rd 2311 car. They didn't spend all that money on airspeed to not house another team. So money talks, BS walks. I'll leave it off there. Whoever wants to chime in and jump in, let's start a dialogue. Let's talk about it.
Okay, Charles. Sir Charles.
Cha.
I'll go first, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not a shock. I think if you've been plugged into NASCAR Twitter, this rumor has been going around for a while. So I'm not really shocked by the news. I am disappointed though. First off, for all the folks that work there, I think us as race fans, like it's real easy to get caught up on, drivers, crew chief, pit crew, but there's hauler folks, there's marketing folks, there's the guys and girls that work in the shop, there's a team of accountants right now that have to look for jobs, right? And like they may have never even been to a racetrack, right? Like, but that's their job. So there's a lot of, I'm sure very talented men and women that are now looking for work. And so I've lost a job before in my life. And like, I hate that feeling. And I don't wish that for any of those folks. The drivers are probably in the best scenario to have a softer landing than some of these other folks. So that's where my first thought goes to, just a bunch of people that I'm sure are very talented at their job, just for reasons that were probably outside of their control. It just didn't work out. It is a big surprise. We talked about the idea of them reducing down to 2 and taking a bunch of money, which seemed to be the easy play, and for them to go completely down to 1 tells me that things must have been much more dire and desperate than we all thought from the outside looking in. Several of the tweets talking about the announcement today, so that Tony gave the news to the group. He was real emotional, and I wouldn't blame him. This was his baby. I'd say more so than Gene, just because he's the one that was literally in the car, on the box for these guys, and he spent a lot of work building that team up. When he left, I thought it was a huge mistake as a kid. Like, why would you leave Joe Gibbs Racing? You've won championships here. Like, why would you leave? And he proved them wrong and built them into a consistent contender for championships. So I would love to hear more backstory at some point. I'm sure it'll leak on the finances or what was it that changed for them to have to close their doors. Because, if you look back in history, outside of Furniture Row, which is a 1-car team, how many championship winning teams have folded? I can't think of any in the last 30 years, right? It's been so dominant by these few teams. So for a team to win multiple championships and then just poof disappear at the end of the season is a big shock. There's a lot of ramifications to the NASCAR world that we're going to talk about here. But that's my first thought, was just go out. My heart goes out to the folks, having to look for jobs, and like, you got to go home, tell your partner, or tell your family, hey, I'm going to be unemployed in November. Like, that's stressful. That's real stressful. So I hope that all of them can find soft landings and get, good steady work. Cause I don't want nobody to be unemployed. Like, that's the last thing I want for any of these folks. So that was my first thought went to.
Yeah. And I want to keep that last bit of what you said kind of just in your back pocket, because there are some benefits to the Chargers, and thinking about just that today made me realize that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, people are joking about, like what happened to being real racers and things like that. And Tony's no BS, or I don't think there was any indication to him in February that closing the operation was an option. I think that if that were the case, that they probably would have looked at that last year, losing Harvick and Amarola, right? So obviously the conversations have changed. There have been some rumblings about, Tony Stewart and Gene Haas being relatively absentee the last couple of years. Kevin Harvick have made comments about that. And, it's no secret, right? Tony Stewart has certainly had his own projects. Haas F1 is in their 3rd rebuild, so to speak, since they've been an F1 team, and are making some inroads. And right now, what they choose for the driver lineup for next year is very critical. So obviously, like I said, something changed, and what that might have been, I don't know. Because they're getting sponsorship, and I don't know that maybe it's paying the full amount they need to make it viable. But I mean, I think, the economics of a 4-car team are just really hard to accomplish anyway. I think there's a very distinct reason that I think the only 4-car team around is Hendrick and Gibbs. And that's something I also want to talk about in a second, but It sucks, man. I mean, I remember thinking like, he was leaving JGR in 2008. They just went to Toyota. Kyle Busch is winning everything left and right. They're blowing people out of the water and what was in the Nationwide Series. And I'm like, they're on top of the world, man. Why would you leave to go start your own thing? Like, you could win another title here. And then to go to what was then, just Haas CNC Racing, which was not a good organization at all at the time. They had a lot of money, but did nothing with it. I was just like, man, this is career suicide. And then, he showed us, that over the next couple of years, I mean, won a title 2 years into it. And these are all things that I remember. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of the publications and people in the sport were like, there's no telling this is going to work out. And we were at that point over 10 years separated from the era of the owner driver, right? In the 90s, you had, guys like Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd and Darrell Waltrip that all own their own operation or racing and winning, and that died out, right? So it was cool to see. There's a lot of legacy, a lot of history there, a lot of great moments. It hurts to see it, but there are some silver linings, and we can get into that, as well, like I said. And you know what? I think ultimately, it's very smart of kudos to Tony Stewart for doing probably the hard thing, right? Because I think in reality, I think he probably wanted to continue on. People said that he was emotional there. I know that that's his team. He built that. But I think that in this day and age of you have to have a development pipeline, you've got to find these kids young, you've got to secure funding for them. There's so much more depth to it now than there was in 2009. And, and you're fighting with other teams within your own manufacturer for these things. Hey, I get it totally. I understand entirely. So, yeah, I mean, we can go from there.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It wasn't, a secret that they had been replaced as a tier 114 by Front Row.
Right.
Like I said earlier, seemingly Front Row is going to be literally buying them out of everything that they have to continue their success on and upward. But I guess like if you don't have a manufacturer contract signed, worked on, being talked about for next season, you really can't run, right? Like say if they had the sponsorship money and they could do it, Gene's a billionaire and obviously his bag is secured. Right. But if you don't have a company an OEM to drive for, you kind of like you're like a fish out of pond anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I think Front Row's ascension and I think RFK's reascension really knocked them down on the totem pole, right? I think Penske was always going to be number one in the Ford camp, especially when you win back-to-back championships like they've done the last 2 years. But there was a time where they could easily be that 1B. Especially when Harvick was going on a tear the last couple of years, especially like during the COVID year. So it seems really apparent that Ford at least saw something to knock them down in terms of their priority, and I'm sure that made a bad problem worse. And you look at the driver lineup they had, and it was Kevin Harvick. His back was probably very sore from carrying them for so long, given the results that they've had since he left. I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the sponsorship was so hard to come by. You see a lot of their big names leaving after Harvick, like Hunt Brothers Pizza and some of these other ones. So when you start seeing like a mass exodus of big name sponsors, that's probably a good sign that there's trouble in the water. Right. And like, that's something I'm not going to say and be like, I called this, but like, I did notice that, like Hunt leaving and going with Logano, that was one of those where I was like, that's a big name. And Chastain getting Busch was huge. Like Busch was on
a year early.
They were on every week, it seemed like, with Harvick as the primary. So like I know they were giving them a ton of money. So those are ones where you look back at hindsight and you're like, okay, there's some writing on the wall here that like there's trouble. And then even, when you start seeing, one sponsor sponsoring multiple cars in the same race, like that also to me is a bit of a red flag. Like they did that with Overstock as well, where it's like, that just feels a bit weird. There's a reason you don't see that very often, I feel like.
And then also knowing that Marcus Lemoyne's is such a con man too, like that also didn't give me a great feeling either. Like they're trying to spin it like, oh, they've got 3 car sponsors this weekend by the same company, and it's like, yeah, and I'm sure all 3 sponsorships are equal to what it costs to sponsor 1 car. But yeah, go on, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just it's tough, and the on track results haven't been great. The driver lineup, like I mentioned, hasn't been great. As much as he is much maligned on this show, Eric Almirola was real valuable. Like that bacon money,
Bacon
kept
money,
the lights
baby.
on.
Hey, man,
And even if he wasn't getting, wasn't a consistent threat for wins, he was a guy who could bring it home, wouldn't tear up the car, probably get you a top 20, top 15 more often than not. And, his check was cleared every week. So I guess in hindsight, like I said, that was more valuable than any, potential you could have had in some of these other guys that they might have brought in, like a Priest, like a Noah, even like a Josh Berry, who I hated for him, especially like he just got his big break. And it's like, oh, hey, I hope that was fun. Get out, take your helmet with you. So I think it's just a combination of factors, I'm guessing, and I'm sure there's a lot of financials behind the scenes. And like Carl mentioned, having a 4-car team being so expensive, when Jeff Gordon came out and was like, HMS is not turning a profit, I was like, you have to be lying to me. Like that can't be true. But like, there's no reason to lie about that, I guess. So like, if you're not turning a profit and you're the number 1 team, like you're the number 1 franchise in this sport for the last 25 years, right? Like you've got the most popular driver, you got the winningest driver of like the last 3 years, 2 of the last 4 champions, sell all those die casts, and you're not making money, then there's no way these other tems are making money. Yeah, like what does it take? So when he said that was a big alarm bell to me, not for SHR specifically, but for all these other teams. Because like I said, if you're not turning a profit, I don't know who can. So I think, if you're looking at this from a big picture perspective, I know we always badmouth the next gen car, but this was one of those things that was supposed to make things cheaper. I'd be real curious to see how their bottom line was affected by this new car. Because everyone I've seen talk about it says that it hasn't gotten cheaper. Like if anything, it's been as expensive, if not more so. And that doesn't seem to have solved that major issue. And I'm not going to say like the next gen killed SHR or anything like that.
I will.
Okay. I'll let you say. But like, I'm sure it had to be a factor, right? Like there's no way like that didn't play a role. So like I said, it's just, I'm sure the tell-all book that will come out in 5-10 years will be a bestseller in the NASCAR community. But yeah, it's just disappointing. Like I said, that's the biggest emotion I feel, because I like there to be balance and competition. Like I don't want, as much as I might want 2311 and Toyota to win a championship, 1-2 at Phoenix and finish that in the points, I don't want it to be just Toyota and Chevy up front every week. Like I'm not a Ford guy by any stretch, but I think competition brings the best out of sports. And, just from a numbers game, Ford's taking a big hit today. Now, where these charters go, that might lessen the blow, but, you're losing a whole operation, and there's no way 100% of these resources and talented men and women are all going back in the Ford pipeline in Ford teams, right? Like someone said in the chat, like if I'm Denny, I'm calling up those pit crew guys and be like, hey, come try out, right? Like
100%.
If I've got, if I know there's a talented, engine tuner in the shop, I'm giving him a call. Like, hey, bud, come on down. Like, I'll sign you today. So like, there's going to be a bit of a drain of information and talent in the Ford camp. And I don't like that, because like I said, I want there to be competition. I want there to be at least 3 competitive manufacturers. I'd love there to be 4 or 5, if I'm being honest, but that's a story for another day. So yeah, that's definitely weaker. Like, can you imagine, like, if nothing changed next year, you go to a plate track, you got Penske, you got front row, RFK, it's about 80 y'all. Well, that's nice. Like Hendrick can take up half of that, in the lineup. And then you've got all these other teams for like Chevy and Toyota. So the scales are definitely very unbalanced at this moment, and we'll see where they land. But it's just tough. You know, like I said, I just really hate it. That's the biggest thing I keep coming back to. Is I just hate it for the sport at large.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk over you, Jared.
No, you're good. I was just gonna bring up, with speaking of the manufacturer's realignment, it had been Denny had talked about it, on his podcast. He had been in communication with Toyota, and Toyota's ready for, if I can count, 4, 6, 8. They'd be ready for a 10th. They're ready for like their 10th team, which would be crazy because that would mean that 2011 gets a third car. And I know that Jimmy runs when he wants to, but if they bought another third car to help boost Toyota's pipeline, there's strength in numbers. We preach about it. It never works at super speedways. They haven't figured out how to do it together yet. But if Toyota's ready to double down in their investment in the sport, say we're here, let's get it. I said the aftermath of this, I said there's jobs lost and all of those things, but on the flip coin of that, it makes you excited for, I guess, the new generation of team owners. Like what does your growth and expansion mean to you? Like how much are you willing to invest in your future to take down a Gibbs, to take down a Hendrick? Like what's your legacy? No pun intended, but like what's your legacy worth to you? How much do you want to spend to create yours? I'm really hoping that NASCAR gets their act together with this charter deal because a lot of things can happen. A new player can enter into it. We got to also think, with SHR closing, they have an Xfinity program too. Cole Custer just won the championship last year. So you got to think about what happens to Riley and Cole. Where do they go?
Yeah.
Do they come up? Do they go down? Do they stay in Xfinity? Like what happens to their teams? What happened to their careers? So it's not just, the Cup program that's at stake. It's the Xfinity program as well. So it's a lot of moving pieces and parts at hand. So, it's just crazy. It's $300,000 a car. I know y'all watch the same races I do. The SHR cars end up balled up more oftentimes than not. So, crashing Lambos out here.
Yeah,
I'd want to get out too.
Carl, tell us how the next gen killed SHR, please.
That leads right into it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I said it some episodes ago. I mean, we've seen with every generation of car, right, that like an organization, starts off on the right foot and they are really dominant with it, really great with it. I think about we went to the Gen 6 and Penske, I mean, Ford in general, but Penske especially, 2013, 2014, 2015, it was just crushing it. Like I said, and, we talk about, the COT, I mean, JGR and Hendrick led off. And I mean, we're one of the most dominant teams of the era with that car, especially, Hendrick with Jimmy Johnson and everything. So you're going to have winners and you're going to have losers. And I think that, it's like I said, when we were going to this car years ago, it's been 3 years ago now, is that, the teams that have, like, there are going to be some people that stumble, but once these teams that have the engineering depth figure it out, they're going to go right back to the top. Like I was not misillusioned that like parity was really going to be real. And I mean, like we got through 2/3 of 2022 and it was like, okay, the Hendrick cars are the best. The Gibbs cars are the best. Penske's also there, but it's hit and miss, and everybody else is kind of right in behind them. Trackhouse in 2311 have made great improvements, but outside of that, I mean, SHR just, I mean, really just, missed the mark. And a lot of where their speed was, admittedly by Rodney Childers, was in their bodybuilding capabilities, like in how they hung bodies and stuff like that. That's where a lot of their performance came from and what they specialized in. So going away from that, you have a more expensive car now. You're behind the 8 ball, and also these cars are incredibly expensive. You guys are tearing them up a lot. I mean, and then also they got hit with some insane penalties early on.
That fine was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, which is just to which a lot of people felt like it wasn't fair. So if I was Tony Stewart and I'm looking at, look, I got this car that it's costing me $1.2 million to fill the car every week, and if we've got, 6 cars per team, I mean, you're talking about, I don't know, 2 times 6, I don't know, some neighborhood of 10 million, I guess, maybe, I don't know. And in just my fleet of cars alone, we're not talking about parts and motors to replace and stuff like that, just in the whole build. And we are having to burn through cash, figuring out, in the wind tunnel and in the sim and in engineering meetings on how to get these cars to be faster. We're behind the 8 ball. We are not getting the level of information from Ford that we need. Yeah, I mean, this car really played a strong message. I mean, a strong role in killing this team's performance. I won't say killing the team, but killing the performance. Because you look at, 2021, Kevin Harvick still won, I don't know what, man, four or five races that year, and he won 10 the year prior to that. And, like I said, and we can talk about the performance thing separately, because I want to say this, I don't think that Kevin Harvick carrying the organization deserves as much merit as it gets. For what it's worth, outside of Tony Stewart, Darren Grubb and those guys, when they first started, Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers were the only constant at that organization for almost a decade. And I am a strong believer in performance is situational. And so you have to be there at the right time with the right guys, X, Y, and Z. Kurt Busch is not a driver that should be capped at 1 win a season, but that's the way it panned out. And again, it's situational, right? So I feel like the team as a whole had some stout lineups, and it just wasn't meant to be. I feel like 2018 was like the strongest that team ever really was, with Almirola, with Kurt, with Kevin, obviously, and it didn't pan out. But yeah, I do feel like this car played a huge part in the downfall of the organization, and that sucks. But I don't want to be the guy that's like everybody else, where they're like, man, this car is the worst thing ever, and blah, blah, blah. Like, speaking hyperbole, but I do feel like it probably did hurt them. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is, the Jarrett kind of hit on it a little bit. You talk about there's these employees and things like that. If this happens, let's say, fictionally, if this happens pre-2016, when there's no charters, and you've got a 4-car organization, a tier 1 organization that goes out of business, well, I can guarantee you that, all of the assets are going to be bought up like hotcakes. But as we know, I mean, resale in racing, you're selling for pennies on the dollar. You're not going to get back what you put into it ever. It's just simply not going to happen. But there's no guarantee when you sell a 4-car organization that you're going to get 4 more cars in the field. So where the charter system shines a little bit in this situation is that you are taking away 4 cars, you're taking away 4 teams that employ people, X, Y, and Z, but they're not gone forever, right? They're guaranteed spots, so they're going to be elsewhere. So I would say 80% of the staff displaced by this move are probably going to find work elsewhere, thanks to the charters ensuring that the cars are going to be on track. Now, it may not be the 4, 14, 41, and 10. It might be the 67 at Trackhouse, at JGR, I don't know, man, 97, 91 at Trackhouse, the 78 at Spire, or in the 35 at FRM. Who knows? But, I will commend the first time I've ever done this. I will commend the charter system if they come to an agreement that it did help avert an even bigger problem, which is you had now 300 people in the sport that are unemployed entirely with no guarantee that they're going to be able to pick up any work at all. It's not great, but it ain't that bad, so.
That's, that's surprisingly optimistic.
Yeah. But with that, you started calling some numbers. It sound like some front row numbers. Your boy Riley Herbst's been running for front row in these super speedway tracks.
Yeah.
With this monster beast unleashed. He get the call? He coming?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
You've you've got 6 drivers unemployed here. All 6 have been in a Cup car in
Let's
the
talk
last
about
3 years.
Talk about these predictions.
Yeah,
Where
all
did
6
the
have been in a
chips
Cup car
fall?
the
Let's
last
get
3
it.
years. I feel all but one are going to find employment next year. Look, I'll save my predictions for last, but I have, and I'm not even trying to be a hater. Like I said again, I'll save my predictions for last on that because I have a piece to say about it. So
why don't we do? No, I was gonna say, how about we do this? How about Jarrett goes through the lineup driver by driver, and we can both say our piece on each driver.
All right,
Let's
okay,
do
that's
it.
fine.
So,
That's fine. Yeah.
You can tell we planned this ahead of time.
We can start with the youngest in charge, Noah Gragson.
Absolutely.
Noah stays in Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Noah goes to Rick Ware, I think.
That would be such a smart move on their part. They have the RFK partnership. Brad Keselowski says we ain't got the money to buy another Charger. They got Justin Haley. They got the RFK partnership. Noah is the kind of guy that he kind of needs to be somewhere a little low key, so long as Johnny Morris is still cool with him,
right?
And they can put together some money. Yeah, if they can do that, and the way that Justin Haley's been running, and they're only going to get better with time, absolutely put him in the 51.
We moved to
Go
Chase
ahead, Art. I'm
Briscoe.
sorry.
Yeah, they did me a chance.
Yeah. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I could see him going there. I could honestly see him somehow finding his way back to like JRM and Xfinity for a year. Like if a spot somehow opens up, I could see that happen. Like if he somehow gets locked out, and like if somehow someone gets a call, I don't know. I just feel like that would make sense. Like, he's got roots there, right? Like they know him there. Like sometimes you just gotta go home, right? Like you always see the movie about the guy who like goes out, tries to make it in the big city, flames out, comes back home, sees the girl from high school working in a diner, whatever. That's what JRM is for him. It's that girl in that diner who never left. I'm just saying, I don't think it's likely, but I'm saying that would make sense to me.
I can see that.
These are my picks. You can't judge them.
Okay,
You can't badmouth him.
He does got sponsorship. He got the money.
Yeah.
But who he gonna replace with JRM? Brandon Jones?
I mean, what has Brandon Jones really done?
I
mean, look at this way.
I'm just asking.
Look, I'll say this. Noah, to his credit, in a JRM car, is damn good.
Yeah,
he was real good. And championship contender, won a bunch of races. I mean, he had like 5 or 6 wins his last like full.
Yeah, he won six races that year.
Yeah, like I mean, I always kind of go back to would I rather be up front in an Xfinity car or a back marker in the Cup car? I'd rather be up front in an Xfinity car if you gave me the choice between the two.
Right, but then you run the risk of being just an all guy, right? Like, I mean, like he talked about, and again, this is no hate at all. I'm not being funny about it, nothing. I'm just saying, like, you look at Justin Allgaier, right? You heard him on the radio Sunday night at the 600, and he was like, telling Keith Rodden, like, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I just, whatever, because he hasn't run these cars. Not in these cars every week, man. You're not going to be good in them. And now
he finished 13th.
Asterisk 13.
Yeah, a little bit of an asterisk there, right? Because like that last restart, like he dropped like 12 spots. But look, what I'm saying is, 3 years ago, yeah, go back to Xfinity. That's fine. The cars are somewhat similar when the Cup cars were running the 750 package, and it's not a huge difference. You can come back to Cup at some point. The cars are saying that it translates. Now it doesn't translate at all. There's no point in even doing Xfinity if you're signed to a Cup team, right? That's why Hocevar and Zane Smith skipped. So why Corey Haim is, kind of skipping a little bit. I mean, the hell with it, So I would rather him stay in Cup. My
only counter to that would be that I think if you're going off of potential, I think Noah has a higher ceiling in Cup. If like at this point in 2024, to where I don't think he would be a lifer.
Yeah,
I think I could see him going down for a year and then coming back up.
I mean, yeah, he's done some great things and it's been noteworthy and people have talked about it. I think he's surprised every naysayer that he's had and he's delivered on what everybody thought he was going to do in the 42. So, Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you on that statement. So who's up next, Jared?
Chase Briscoe. I think Chase. He stays in Ford. I think Ford wants him bad enough that he'll stay. I'm trying to think of teams with.
He's going to the 21.
I'll give you 21 to number reasons that he's going to.
Yeah, he's going to 21.
Yeah, he's going to 21.
Well, we all know that this is Harrison last year. We know the experiment over.
Yeah,
I think Toyota picks him back up though.
No, I think if anybody's going to JRM,
I think Harrison goes back to Xfinity. I think he can be join the smorgasbord of the Joe Gibbs 52 drivers they have for the All-Star car. He can
a great spot for him in Xfinity would be along that line of thinking. Sam
SHR.
Hunt Racing.
Sam Hunt.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be a good spot for him.
He can go back.
But yeah, Chase is definitely going to the 21 though. He's out of their current lineup, he has the best Cup resume, which means he's basically won something.
Yeah, which he has. Yeah,
which
I think he's the highest. He's the highest SHR driver in points right now too.
Which isn't a high bar, but I agree.
Noah got to be right there because Noah been on a tear these past.
So I haven't looked at it in a week, but I looked at it when I was arguing with somebody like a week ago about Ryan Preece, and and as I believe it is, Briscoe is like 14th or 16th, somewhere in there. And then Noah is like 16th or 17th, and Barry is like a spot or two behind him, and then Preece is like 26th.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna pull it up while we're doing this because we obviously prepare. Briscoe is 16th.
There you go.
Barry is 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Noah's 21st.
Okay.
And where is old boy? Ryan Preece is 28th.
Hashtag real racers.
Ryan Preece, as of this date, and this is no hate, I'm just stating facts. He is sandwiched between Ricky Stenhouse and Daniel Hemrick. He has, quick math says,
he just got re-signed, mind you.
He has 13 points, I believe, more than Corey LaJoy.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you know who's not coming back to Cup? It's Ryan Preece.
Yeah,
his goose is cooked.
Yeah,
I think Dirt Modifieds will be welcoming him with open arms.
Yeah. He's over there with Matt Tift. No, I thought about this on the drive back to the house when I texted y'all that like let's do this, or I was going to be here for this. Look, man, I have my own personal feelings about Ryan Preece, but speaking from like a analytical standpoint, he just has not adjusted to Cup well in the two scenarios that he's been in. And you can say, well, he's never got a chance. It's unfortunate. And you might have a little bit of a point there, but I mean, look, dude, I mean, it's just not working out. I mean, point blank period. And that's not to say he's a bad driver, because he's shown in the trucks and Xfinity he can run well and even win. But in Cup, I mean, it's just that much harder to win. And like I said, and everybody has said it the last couple of years, it's so hard to win these races. And I just do not think that he is a Cup talent right now. I think that he maybe needs to go talk to some folks at Gibbs or Sam Hunt or, just whoever, even Sieg. I don't know, man. Maybe he needs to go run the niche truck. I don't know. Somewhere where he can win, but Cup ain't going to be it for him. I feel like that's a waste of money.
Yeah, I think a truck ride is the only way he stays in Cup. And I guess like if you're a team that's like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of him either, but
right.
If I look at the resume, I'm just not impressed in terms of Cup Series. Now, like outside of NASCAR, like he's got a great reputation, and it's not an insult to say that I'm not great at the top level of stock car racing. That's not an insult. Like the fact that you made it here means you're in the 1%. Like you made it to the dance. Like you had a shot. I just don't see him. I think if anyone's gonna be the odd man out completely, like all the way out, the musical chair stops and you're sitting there, standing, I think he's the one for sure.
Yeah, I just got reminded that he sold shirts post Daytona flip, and that's still the funniest thing ever to me.
He did.
Hashtag real racers.
Yeah.
I mean, he can be this generation's Elliott Sadler. Elliott
Yeah,
didn't do much
that's solid. Yeah.
He went back to Xfinity and made a killing. So if that is what it is, that is what it is.
As a matter of fact, Ryan Preece is what stopped Elliott Sadler from winning an Xfinity title. So wouldn't that be ironic? Yeah.
Get your lick back, Playboy.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see, which leaves our dear old beloved Josh Berry.
I wish the 7 was open so bad. Because
the 7 can be open.
Well, apparently it ain't, but he would be a perfect candidate for the 7. He's had some really good moments. Look, adjusting to Cup. I mean, he's had some Cup starts before, but adjusting to Cup in this car with this team and being where you are in the standings, I think, being the better half of the organization, I think is really good. Just from a standings point of view, not talent wise or whatever. I just don't know where he would go, man. I mean, he's a candidate for a wear seat, I would say. I don't know what Spire's going to do. I would imagine a third front row car, I guess, if Gilliland is signed, right? And McDowell's out. Have they announced McDowell's replacement? No,
which is
okay.
Why the door is open for an SHR talent to jump in that seat and drive the Love's car.
Custer to the 34 and Barry to the third FRM car. Is what I would say.
That's not a bad lineup.
That's what I would say. Because you've got Loves there. Put it up with a different team. They have an insane business to business deal with Loves, and over at FRM. And then you've got the Haas money with Custer. Put him in whatever car. Put him in 34. Don't matter. And then you've got Riley Herbst. God, I don't know where he would go still. But anyway, so.
Like I said, and this is all barring they all stay with Ford teams. The only person that I know for sure that Ford's not letting get away is Chase Briscoe. He's like the Ford baby. Everything else is up for grabs for everybody else.
I think they just see so much potential in him.
Yeah, which there is. There definitely is. Him and Austin Cindric, and then of the two that came out of that deal in Xfinity, he's the better of the two. If anything, he should get the 2, but that's a whole different story.
No, they Austin only because his daddy.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying those guys need to go to Ford. I don't know what else is going to be available. I mean, because I would bet dollars to donuts that the third charter for 2311 goes to Corey Heim. Why not?
Heim.
Heim time. And then, the Trackhouse charter would, I guess, be for Zane Smith.
You don't think they keep Jizzle?
So that, huh?
So they ain't gonna keep Jizzle?
You talking about Van Gisberg?
Yeah.
It doesn't appear to me, from what I saw, what Parker's talking about.
Trackhouse,
yeah, they do. They do.
Yes.
Justin Mark's eyes are bigger than his stomach because
Gamebridge got to spend some money.
From what Parker said when McDowell announced he was going to the 71, was that Zane Smith was trying to get in the door at Trackhouse. So here's how I see this working out. So if I wish I had a drawing board, I could draw this all up. But I would imagine SVG is full time next year at Colleague. They have 2 charters; they can swing it.
They probably send Daniel back too.
Yeah, McDowell's in the 71. Herb stays with Ford, so Barry would be the other Spire car if Ford's not an issue, and then 2311 gets a charter. They get Heim. Trackhouse is using theirs for Zane Smith. FRM is using theirs for, I would assume, somebody. I don't know. I lost track of my train of thought. But anyway.
But now I'll add another thing to it. So it's rumored in this charter deal.
Riley Herbst, that's what I was thinking of. All right, go. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's rumored in this charter deal that the only 4 cup teams will be allowed that they get grandfathered into this are going to be Hendrick and Gibbs, and everybody else has a max of 3. This Trackhouse buy out colleague, keep a charter, sell the other one, or lease it to stay under that quote unquote 3-team maximum. Because that's also a situation that's been swirling around too before the SHR got the definitive stamp today. That colleague is just spinning wheels and cup. They reckon Lambos. Let's go trophy hunting and go dominate the Xfinity series.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, unless they're saying we're grandfathering you in to give you time to close out existing business, and like let's say within 3 years you have to go down to 3. First of all, I hate the idea that we're gonna have the haves and the have-nots even more so than we already do, because if there's one thing you don't need to do, it's give HMS and JGR more of an advantage. Like they already are the top 2 in the series by a solid margin, like a solid margin. So if that's the case, so be it. I retract everything that I'm going to say about that, but I hate that rule. And I understand, like if you've got, I'm going to pick on Bowman, even though I love Bowman. Some people think I hate Bowman, but I actually don't. But like, let's say you got to deal with Ally and Bowman, and it runs through the next 2 years, and like you don't want them to burn that bridge. Like you say, okay, we'll give you 2 years to finish out your deal. And same thing with Gibbs. If Yahoo is like, hey, I've got another year on this deal, like I paid you for already. Like I want what I paid for. Like I can see that making sense. So I hope that actually doesn't come to pass. Like I'd rather them just keep it at a max of 4. Just because it's you're tilting your thumb on the scale even more so than it already is. Like they don't need more of an advantage. So I hope that's not the case. But yeah, I feel like Trackhouse would worry me if that's the case, because I feel like they're one of those teams that, like we just said, like they don't seem like they have a solid roadmap. Like with 2311, like we always talk good about them, obviously, but like they seem to have a very clear plan. And Denny has been on the record saying, I've got, a 5 and a 10-year plan. And like they seem to be motoring along, like getting better, competing better on track, like eventually get a 3rd charter. And my guess is that at some point Denny wants to race as his own team, and like he would be the 4th charter for like a year or 2 before he retires. Like if he wins a championship with Gibbs, I think he'd even be quicker to hit the ejecto-cedo button and like get out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So like that would be great for them. But like that seems to be a very clear plan. With Trackhouse, it's like, hey, we're gonna go sign all these guys. Okay, I guess we'll throw them in Xfinity. And it's like we mentioned on the last Charters mini episode, like SVG is getting to be in his prime, and like you can't waste these years. You can't give that man 3 years in an Xfinity ride. Like he should go back overseas. Like if that's the case, like that's a waste of his time. Like he came here to compete against the best. He's already beaten the best. Okay, it's only one off, but so far, but you got to get him in a cup ride sooner rather than later. So you're either gonna have to hurt some feelings, or do some big adjustments. And I feel like no matter what you do, like someone's gonna be upset. But that seems like you mentioned, like there's one, like there's just so much growth, and they didn't seem like they planned the runway well enough for it. So I don't know, like if they get a 3rd charter, and they just say, okay, next year we're gonna run SVG in the 97 or whatever for a year, and we'll figure it out from there, and like kick the can down the road for a year. Like that would make sense as a solution. It's a very short-term solution, but still a solution. So
yeah, y'all, it's wild. I mean, just to sum it up, 3 championships, a boatload of drivers. We out. I blame Danica.
Anyway.
Yes, don't respect that. that statement.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I just, no, I want to go there, dude. But anyway, so remind me real quick, is Hocevar the 77 is not an open car, right?
No,
No.
I
So
don't think it is.
Spires for charters are spoken for unless they run an open car. Because I did a quick read through right here, and the way I see it panning out is Spires lineup is not changing next year. They've got LaJoy McDowell, Hocevar, Trackhouse would have the 91 for Zane Smith with the charter they buy from SHR. 2311 would have Heim in the charter they buy. Wood Brothers is putting Briscoe in 21. Ware doesn't need a charter, but they would sign Gregson. So there's 3 charters and 2 drivers spoken for of the 6. And then FRM would probably sign Custer and Herbst for the 34 and 36 respectively. That's a 3rd charter spoken for and 2 more drivers. That's 4 of the 6. And all I can figure out is Hemrick full-time?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
and I know
whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. And I know to the viewer for the first time, because we're putting this on YouTube for the first time ever, I know somebody's scratching their head like, what do you mean? Do you not watch? Yes. I also have a full-time job where I work 70 hours a week. We forget things sometimes, and I apologize in advance to friend of the show, Tom Ingles' desk, but colleague ain't really been at the forefront of my attention. So the way I see it working out next year for everybody but Ryan Priest to have a ride is that Hemrick would have to go back to Xfinity or something, and Colleague would be the 16 with SVG full-time, and then the 31 would be Josh Berry, which, for what it's worth, I feel like is a move that is not lateral. I feel like that's
an upgrade.
That's an upgrade. Nothing against Daniel Hemrick, but Josh Berry kind of showed you up when y'all was competitors. So that's all I got to say. Anyway, that's what I was typing up a minute ago because my brain was just going crazy, not being able to figure that out. But as far as the 3 rules thing, the 3-car rule, look, there's 2 sides to this. So one side is I don't know this, but I guess that it works kind of in a way like the Formula One teams administration, where you have the more tenured teams have a heavier say in how things are swung, which I didn't realize that. I don't think that's a very good move because, like I said, you're talking about you're talking about only 2 teams at the top can have the maximum possible revenue sharing from the charters coming in, right? I don't think that's fair. I think if a team like 2311 or like Trackhouse has the money, has the assets to buy a 4 charter, they should be allowed to run a 4 charter. There's nothing wrong with that. On the flip side of that, though, and like Art said, I don't want the same guys winning all the time, right? On the other flip side of that, though, limiting teams to just 3 cars in a way ensures field health a little bit, because if means you're going to probably have 1 or 2 charters floating around every year from teams contracting and expanding. Like I don't think Spire is going to be 3 cars forever. I don't think. Who knows, right? I don't. But so in a way that kind of ensures that there's going to be an in for a new team for 1 or 2 cars, but that's kind of questionable. I just don't feel like, to be honest with you, that I feel like it's a very damning and a very bad move to allow 2 cup teams to be able to set the rules on who gets how many of what. And I feel like, if anything, in a situation where you all are trying to get towards the common goal of getting a deal done, you're now throwing an obstruction in the way of potentially not getting a deal done in time and hurting yourselves in the long run. So think about, how bad do you really want this? You know what I mean? So because if y'all are squabbling over a 3 or 4 car rule, and we get to the end of the year and you haven't cleared that up because this thing is moving and slower than a disabled snail, then I feel like it's counterproductive.
Yeah, I the argument of raising the floor, I can understand, and I mean, Lord knows there's been plenty of weeks where you see some cars that are just hanging out in the back of the field, right? Like, but I could make the same argument that you can raise the floor of HMS, right? Like, for years, we've always said that that fourth car was like the test car. And depending on who it was, whether it was the 25 and there was, whether it's Casey Mears or whoever, like that car was always off, like way off, right? Performance wise. Yeah. Same thing with that. So I feel like you could make that same argument and say, well, you know, it's not just the have-nots that have to perform better. It's also the haves that have to perform better. And like, if you're getting more of the money, you have a higher responsibility as well. So I can see that argument. However, I don't trust this sanctioning body to ensure that that actually happens. Like, I don't think they're going to be like, well, you know, if we're just going to give, you know, HMS these 4 charters, and like they'll pump in a lot of money, and you know they've got all this sway and whatever. But like you know, it'll make it fair. It'll somehow make it fair, you know, like proportionately. And I've zero, and you know, I love Jeff Gordon. Like I don't hate, you know, HMS at all by any stretch. They're just not my favorite anymore. But like, I just don't think they need that much of an advantage. Like, I'm sitting here looking at the standings right now. 7 of the top 10 are HMS or JGR cars. Like, and I would not be surprised if those 2 teams combined went 4 for 4 in the championship. Like, it takes a very clutch Penske drive late in the playoffs for them to not go 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if Blaney doesn't win, like he has to straight up win, then, you know, it's probably going to be Denny or someone else in that final spot. So again, like, it shouldn't have to take a Herculean effort for there to be a third team competing. If we're supposed to be, you know, this ultra fair, ultra even, you know, we're all playing the same sandbox, but you know, 80% of the races are won by the same 2 teams that we're supposed to be in. You can't have it. I'm sorry. I think it's ridiculous. I promise not to go on a cussing storm tonight, because as we're recording this, we just did the Coke 600 and I got my money's worth last night. Cussing up a storm. But I hate it. I don't think they should do it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, it's just it's a lot of things working and with this. So just first things first, they got to come to some form of agreement with the charter package anyway before all these predictions and all of this stuff can be said, understood, realized, and heard. Because until that's ratified, Tony and Gene stuck with 4 charters. In a building that they ain't gonna use no more. Man, no SRX.
Yeah, what luck would that be that when you decide, after everybody was telling you last year to sell the team, that you decide to sell it this year, and you know you gotta wait and hope they come to an agreement that doesn't invalidate. Yeah, because it's like, I can't imagine anything more agonizing than sitting on $100 million,
sitting on millions. You're literally sitting on $1 million.
You know, if they sold for 25 a pop, $100 million,
$100 million plus the building.
Yeah, they won't plus your assets. Building, it would be agonizing to be sitting on that much money, and plus they'll split it. I'm sure Gene will take his half or whatever. But
y'all saw what Kyle Busch got for his building? What Spire broke him off of, bro? $100 million.
Oh dang, I didn't know.
And you want to be honest, you know, I don't think the price is 25. I think it's closer to 40.
I would be willing to say 40, but I also know that they are motivated sellers, and we have this is the most amount of charters gone to the market at one point in time.
I think it's gonna be a surplus sale.
Well, there could be. That's the one thing I know. I know Pockets is saying, like, they're spoken for, but man, things happen so quick. I just am not 100% sold that even the teams that have said that they wanted them will end up with them. Anything could happen, right? So, like Heim, for example, like, you know, his sponsorship comes through B2B deals from Toyota. What if all of a sudden Toyota and Safelite have a falling out and suddenly they've lost that funding for him? He's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Or, you know, Justin Marks whatever BS he's going on, but his go-kart complex company goes under, and all of a sudden he can't pay out of pocket for a charge. I don't know, man, but I just don't know that yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yes, you took what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But still, allegedly, there's only 3 spoken for, and there still leaves 1 remaining.
Which that'll be the most interesting thing.
Do you sell that to NASCAR?
Well, you could
buy the charter.
Parker said today. I asked him that question specifically, and he told me, and the world. I don't have a special line with Parker, so although he did wish me happy birthday this morning, which made my day. 2 days late. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I have a lot of friends and family, and I love all of them. I look forward no more to any happy birthday wish than from Bob Parker's. But anyway, he is the man. But I asked him that, and he said you cannot have a surplus. If anything, they'd sell it to NASCAR. NASCAR would sell it to a team. I am sure it would be at a highly discounted price. So I think that's the worst case scenario for SHR. So hopefully one of these other teams decides to fork up the cash for one. I would imagine it probably would end up being either Spire, maybe, hell, I don't know. Rick Ware's got a lot of money. He just doesn't act like it. So hey,
you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
That like the whole time the RFK social media team was like, nah, we ain't got it. Our pocket's empty, cuz. But I'm like, whole time it's Roush, Fenway, Keselowski Racing, the Fenway Sports Group. They own the Boston Red Sox.
I'm
money. Quit playing.
I'm sure they could come up with it if
they
put a good enough package together.
You get that Rick Ware money for the RFK Alliance. You got bread. Quit playing with us.
I would love nothing more than
to RFK to be back with 4 cars.
Yes.
Be the 90s again.
Age of my childhood.
Give me that.
I don't need that. I don't need that.
That's a bad word.
You said you don't need that?
Nah, I hate it. I hate it when they were in like a 4 and 5 car because they were so damn good.
I hated it
They're
too.
tough. They're tough, boy.
Oh my god, man!
Jeff Burton was winning races and beating you down. You didn't even have to worry about the biff. Then the biff went off. Then Matt Kenseth went off.
Biff, Kenseth, Edwards, Martin. I mean, they had it. You want to talk about a squad?
I'm telling you, we talk about Jimmy Johnson in the 2000s level dominance. The only force that could stop a Jimmy Johnson was a Matt Kenseth and Robbie Reiser, or was a Greg Biffle, and I think Todd Parrott
did too.
Or was it Doug Richard? I forgot who was on the 16s box. I remember. Jimmy Johnson is accredited with owning Texas Motor Speedway, and I remember watching a race. This is 2012. And I remember seeing like the second half of the race of 16 just inch closer and closer. And I said, 16 gets by him, he's going to just run away with it. And that did happen. As a matter of fact, it was only 2 liters that night. So, yeah, I mean, that era did kind of suck because I didn't like anybody on that squad once Mark left. But, it'd be cool to see him come back with their old form, I mean, so. But.
Well, NASCAR. You got to shock us with how the split gonna work.
Yeah, man.
So we can follow up and say who paid Gene and Tony. I said thoughts and prayers go out to everybody whose jobs and livelihoods are affected by this.
Yeah,
shout out for us giving something to talk about. Hopefully Gene takes this money, double downs on F1 since he keeps burning money anyway. You might as well make yourself competitive and get to a mid-pack team and actually start making money in F1.
They're almost there.
Maybe Tony will give us SRX back now that he can pay the bill after he sells his charters. So him and Ray got to have a conversation.
Well, I think that ship has sailed. I think he's gonna focus on what he's doing right now, which is fine. Run the HRA, big dog. So
we'll see you in a couple weeks, big dog. We see you at Richmond or Dinwiddie or Virginia Motorsports Park, whatever it's called. We'll be out there.
Yeah.
But this has been the Stewart Haas farewell episode. Now let's follow the money and see who's got the Ponzi scheme going in NASCAR.
Because next week. No matter what, somebody gonna get paid.
Hey man,
somebody gonna get paid.
Is that untaxed money? You got to pay tax on that, or is it just
I'm
like wired
I'm
into
sure-
the account?
Oh, go ahead and assume you won't get taxed.
Yeah,
The
I'm
tax
assuming
man
you get
coming.
taxed on that. Yeah,
Uncle Sam gonna get that
Tax
piece.
man coming.
yeah.
That's
Oof.
crazy.
Oh man, yeah.
Can you imagine if like NASCAR teams had to pay luxury taxes like the NFL and NBA teams because of their salary caps?
Is
That'd
that
be
not what the guy
nuts.
that owned BK Racing got in trouble for? What Ron Devine got in trouble for?
I want to say yes.
He had some kind of legal to tax trouble. His ass got locked up, I think, for a little bit anyway. Anyway, but
He ain't
you
pay
know,
property gains tax.
shout out Ron Devine, the visionary behind 2311, because he had a 23 number Dr. Pepper carver before anybody else did. So you know, he really laid the blueprint.
He had them 23 flavors before anybody else.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
Man ahead of his time.
I'm telling you, man. But in any case, this has been our first YouTube or our first video component full episode. So we'll hopefully do more of these as well.
Yeah, shout out to the y'all notice we are aligned strategically with the victory lane and the vibes. We did this on purpose.
We had to, otherwise Jared would throw a fit. Well, he did
You're
throw
right.
a fit, and we had to
I did.
spend
Off air,
7
off
minutes.
I
7
was
minutes
very
of lining
upset.
up the
I wanted to be an
shots.
Oreo and nobody else could see the vision. Now you do. You're welcome.
And hey, real quick, if you're new here, before we sign off, I just want to give a quick shout out to our partner at Home Field Apparel. You'll notice that I have a link up in the top right corner as well as a code. You can use code VLV24 at checkout for 15% off your first order.
Stuff ain't got this crown. You're doing it
that's
wrong.
Yeah, that's where the hat came from. I've gotten a lot of compliments on that. They have the collections for Hendrick Motorsports, the Indy 500, Arrow McLaren, as well as 80 other collegiate sports programs.
All of it.
Be sure to go check them out, man. They've got a lot of great stuff, at great prices, at great and really fast shipping as well. They even got an app that's homefieldapparel.com. But besides that, we got anything else?
I just want to say that was hang on, I got something. I just want to say that was a great ad read, but halfway through I thought you said they got great prices and great shit. And I was like, what?
No.
I thought that's what you said.
I have done this read so much, I'm almost like getting the auctioneer levels of being able to spit it out. So in any case,
you're good. You're good.
While we're here, I would be remiss. Shout out Lamar Jackson coming out to the Coca-Cola 600 kilometers on Monday. We got fussed at. We talked about 45, but we ain't talk about Lamar. Shout out Lamar. Appreciate you stopping by. Come back real soon. See us again.
Did we get fussed at about that?
Yes, we man.
I didn't.
Facebook group. We got
really
lit up. Quickly.
All right,
I'm gonna keep my comments to myself on that. All right, thank y'all so much.
We out.
We out.